So today I'm joined by Dan Carter and James Everett, otherwise known as Maybe Later X and Dustcreeper. They're from Mental Block Gaming, a team who do Minecraft co-op puzzle maps. They're fairly popular on YouTube. I believe you've got, for just No Learning Curve alone, which is one of your 3 maps that have been released, you've got about 128,000 downloads.
Yep, that's right.
And I just totaled up on 3 popular YouTubers. I got Yogscast, Let's Play, and Captain Sparkles. Mm-hmm. And I think the view count averaged on all their videos came to about 1,450,000 viewers. So fairly popular. You've also got No Learning Curve 2, which is another one of your puzzle maps, and Templars of Hyrule. Mm-hmm. And this is bearing in mind all of your maps are kind of designed for 3 or 4 players. Yeah. So, this amount of downloads is actually quite impressive, just because you need at least a few more people to play. Mm-hmm. So, would you like to just give a quick introduction to who you are, what your role is?
Yeah. So, as you already said, Mental Block Gaming is we do 3-player cooperative puzzle maps most of the time. That's our speciality. I am Dan, and I do the starting work, basically. I'll say, this is the game, this is what we're going to make, this is what I want it to do.
And I'm James. I then take Dan's often incomprehensible ideas and change them into something that actually works, often saying back to them, we're not going to be able to do that, of the limitations, but here's something we can do to work around it. So I do a lot of the actual in-game building, as it were, to make the ideas come and work.
That's right. And then the third member is Farmy B. That's my brother Jamie, and he works on the website. So he also works at the marketing. He sets up the Twitter accounts, the Facebook accounts, and just makes us visible online, basically, so people can find the maps, and the website looks nice and it's maintained. Yeah,
very flashy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've seen it. So obviously Minecraft as a creative medium is a bit different to traditional mediums. Normally as a game designer you would go into a game engine and populate things, and even when you're designing puzzle maps you have complete creative freedom. Whereas Minecraft, you're kind of constrained in some ways because you have this blocky grid. You're no longer able to have quite the amount of scripting freedom that you might have in other mediums. So, just as an interesting point, how did you originally decide that you wanted to make Minecraft maps?
Well, it came around originally of a way that we could get rid of these ideas that were forming in different puzzles, and thinking, hey, how can we outburst this in a certain way that's constructive, that we can see, and without having to code in a game how to run, how to jump, how to interact with objects. It was already pre-made for us, so it made it quite easy to be able to just start building something from scratch. So that's how the first map came around, really. It was just sort of a group of ideas, and then it morphed to linking those ideas together, and a very basic storyline appeared out of that. So that's why we chose Minecraft, because it was an easy way of starting, basically.
Yeah, definitely. It was like a game engine for us that had lots of presets already in there. It already had characters, it had blocks, had interactions, had crafting recipes. You didn't have to make any of that. Of course, it does have its limitations. You can't... Well, with the addition of resource packs, we've been able to add music, we've been able to add voiceovers, you can give custom textures to items, things like that. So you do have a little bit of leeway with introducing new ideas and concepts, but at the same time you are still restricted, particularly on the coding side with the redstone and the command blocks. There are some things that are just not going to be feasible until Minecraft gets a bigger update.
It's just things sort of like the environmental gravity. You can't fiddle with those known constants and how liquids change. Yeah, it's things like that are fixed.
Yeah.
Do you think that being able to work on a map together without needing to obviously keep on transferring files or use some kind of team tool like version control, the fact that you could jump onto the same server, see what everyone else is doing, and even build together, do you think that helped a lot in the stages that you'd be developing this map in?
Definitely, I would have said so. It was really handy for us to be able to change things as we were going along to start with. So a very rough idea was built, and before we'd even finished it, because we're both looking at it, I could go, actually, that's not going to work, or can we change this?
Yeah.
And that ability to see it at the same time by being in different locations
Yeah.
really helped it grow.
On the other hand, yeah, it is actually quite difficult sometimes, because when you want to do a small change to some redstone, for example, if in the environment you've got two walls that are back to back because you've got a room that leads into another room, you don't have space to put redstone in. So actually, because you're coding in a visual environment, sometimes you've got other challenges of how you're going to fit all of that into a very small space, which is James' speciality, fitting redstone into a tiny space. So,
because you build your maps kind of in sequence, where you have one puzzle after the other, but you plan all of them straight from the start. or almost.
Well, in Learning Curve 1, because it was our first map, we were just, like I said, James said, it was just an amalgamation of ideas. And the reason we called it No Learning Curve was because each of the puzzles were quite independent. There is no learning curve because when you finish the first puzzle, it doesn't teach you anything to do with the second puzzle, which doesn't teach you anything to do with the third puzzle. So even though each individual puzzle had some sort of learning curve to it, there wasn't any consistent difficulty curve where you would learn from previous mechanics. It was just new puzzle, new puzzle, new puzzle. And that was the idea behind the learning curve, which is why I've got all these different types of puzzles. But it's been quite popular.
Did you find yourself like, when you started making a puzzle, you suddenly found that you needed more space, and you'd have to tear down things and rebuild them, or...
I'll let you take this.
Yes. When we first started, definitely, we found that we'd built something and gone, damn, this is way too close to this other thing, or it's way too far away, and going, right, we're going to have to reconstruct it, because there's no way I'm going to get someone to walk for 8 minutes between two places. It's just not right. And then on the other hand, when they're way too close, I go, I can't fit things in here, we're going to have to change the shape of this, or we're going to have to move it. However, we were lucky, as Minecraft evolved, and it turned into 1.8, they invented clone commands and movement commands, which really helped us be able to control that. But it does pose an extra difficulty level.
I think, Dan, you didn't really know much about kind of the redstone and command blocks before you went into this.
Nope.
Whereas, James, you were a bit of like not an expert, but you knew a little bit about it.
I did, yeah, and I think that was where our immediate divide on Dan doing the creative side and me doing the constructive side came. Because it's sort of changed a lot more now. Dan will quite often help me with the construction, and I'll have an input into the creative side.
Yeah.
It's more fluid than it was before, but definitely originally you didn't even know redstone existed.
No, I didn't even touch it for, I think, the whole of Learning Curve. Yeah. I wouldn't touch any of the wiring. The wiring's quite simple. You just connect this point to this point, but I wouldn't touch any of it. But as we've gone along, I picked up some bits, and now I mostly do the tweening. So James will set up the whole structure. He'll say, this is how it all works. I just need you to fill in this section of command blocks, and then I'll just sort of copy in some coordinates over and over and over, because I can't mess that up. Like, well, you can. I'm sure I could prove myself wrong. But now I just do that part, and as James said, when I'm coming up with some designs, I'll say, do you like this part about it? What do you think is possible is the big important one.
And visual aspects, quite often you go, I don't know how this should look.
Yeah.
And I'll come in and go, well, here you go, throw this there, throw that there. What does it look like? And again, with the visual medium, it made it really easy to be able to change things.
Mm-hmm.
As you were saying before, that you could see what everyone else was doing. Do you think that actually helped you in learning these kinds of redstone contraptions?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, it is in a very accessible format, is the other thing. And I feel like with code, if it throws up an error, it just breaks, and then you have to do a lot of hunting to find where it goes wrong. I mean, that does sometimes happen, but because you're doing it in a visual environment, it's often much easier to do the debugging, because you can see...
okay, this wire has got this current to this location, so we know that part's working. Where is it going wrong? Makes it much easier in that respect.
So it does make it easier to pick up. But, I mean, working together, you're not sort of divided, you're working on the same plane. If I'd be building a building, then James would just be next door doing the redstone behind it. So you do see each other's work, and you get a lot of feedback very quickly as well.
Have to make a lot of signs to
yes,
keep track of everything.
James puts signs on everything.
Everything. I evolved from the first map, going back into it, trying to edit something and going, I have no idea what any of this does.
Yeah.
But now I sign almost everything I put down. Just put a sign on it, tell me what it does, and it's much easier that way.
Yeah, so when something goes wrong, you know exactly where to
go. So talking about puzzle maps in general, obviously puzzle games as a genre involves quite a lot of thought, and especially user testing. You have to make sure that people understand your puzzles and that they're actually possible for someone who isn't you.
Yeah.
So when you started thinking about these maps, how did you go about starting to think about designing the puzzles and how the user would react to the puzzles?
The water temple's probably or the water cigarette puzzle would be a good one to start with that, I think.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, I say we built a lot. Like, the very first puzzle we made was the last puzzle in There Is No Learning Curve.
Oh, that's
And we
true.
had no idea of its difficulty until we came round to saying to 3 of our friends, have a go.
Yeah.
And we gone, okay, this is way more difficult than we thought it was. Just to understand what you have to do, let alone not to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Often, sometimes, even if the mechanic's quite clear, they don't really know exactly how they fit together or how they input something. With in Learning Curve 2, there's rhythm, which I think is the the one that got changed the most out of that game. It was because they have to. They're each responsible for a different instrument. There's 2 of them that sing, and there's 1 of them that's on the instrumentation, and they have to play the correct sample at the correct time, so that they all make a song together. But there was no counter for when they should stand on the inputs, so they were running around the inputs like, this doesn't do anything, because they weren't standing on them at the right moment. But of course, how were they to know that they were supposed to stand and wait on it? So there are things like that where you just don't even think they wouldn't understand how to use it, but they just have no idea what they're doing, which is our fault. It's our fault.
We've learnt a lot, definitely.
Yeah.
So we've changed a lot. Playtesting has played a huge role in this, and watching people playtest is our big one.
Yeah.
That in Learning Curve, we had a puzzle where you have to guide water to the corners of the room.
That's right, yeah.
And initially, there were just pressure plates all the way around the outside. Each, you have to learn what they did. And we found this became tedious because they had to first go, okay, this one does that, write it down. This one does that, write it down. Then figure out what to do. But by watching them play, we then thought, okay, if we colour-coded them, they would immediately know what they do, and then it's all about the logic rather than the painstaking figuring out what to do, not how to do it.
That's right, yeah. And for Learning Curve 1, we didn't really have playtests. We just sort of made it, and then we'd done it, and then we thought, oh wow, we could put this online. People could download it. People could play it. So we put it online, and then we started to see Let's Plays, which was really exciting. I think Kiki Fakama was the first one.
First Let's Play we saw.
And obviously it was in a very raw state at that time, because that was the first version that we'd released of it. And it was a bit painful, some bits, because it was just really difficult. The time bomb, I think we made that easier, didn't we?
We did make that a lot easier.
So there was the one puzzle where 3 of them have to coordinate with each other to press buttons for each other in order that they all reach the end in 25 seconds. And if you don't, you have to do it again. And
it was far too fiendish, and the assault course was too long, and you could only do it with absolute perfect execution, and no one could do that because you had to figure out what to do.
So we found, after watching the Let's Plays, that it was quite frustrating, so we made it a little bit easier, but it was nice to be able to see the Let's Plays. And then when it came to our second map, Templars, we did a lot of testing for Templars, and it was hard because it was such a long map.
And it was 16-hour playthroughs where you'd be sat there watching people do the same thing over and over again.
So while it was really enjoyable, I really liked watching the playtesting, like running it. It was
exhausting because keeping note, we'd end up one playtest and we'd have 6 or 7 A4 sides of just pure notes of things we had to change. And
With playtesting, did you decide very early on this is something we need to do, or did you just draft the entire thing and then say, okay, let's go?
With Learning Curve 1, I think we didn't because we just posted, but Templars, we got about halfway through and thought, okay, we've done the past now, it works, before we start the future, let's make sure it works, because we had to clone it over. So we wanted to make sure it worked rather than having to change it in 2 locations. And that's when we started playtesting and found the actual use of playtesters. And then continually, we've got a new mechanic, let's try it out before we move on. New mechanic, well, it's fresh and we know what it does.
Yeah. The other thing with that is, with playtesters, having a fresh playtester, or a fresh group of playtesters, as the case was for us, is different to having old playtesters, because, for example, in all of our games, because they're all 3-player based, there are often gates where, unless everybody's there, they can't get through them. So there'll be 3 pressure plates. When all activated, we'll let you go through a door. So we have these gates to just keep the players together, because it can be easy to get split up when there's 3 if you're all doing your own thing. And I forgot where I was going with this point.
Did you ever have puzzles that you just decided to scrap? Because you were watching people and it just wasn't working out, or Or was it always like modifying it? Just
Yes. In early stages, we had a puzzle in our Dodongo's Cabin of our Templars of Hyrule, which was far too fiendish. That we scrapped it, but then we brought it back later on in a completely different format.
What was that?
It was the
Cakes.
We had just vegetables and numbers, and you had to try and figure out which ones went together. And it didn't fit with the whole game as it was at all.
Yeah.
But some of them we have had to just axe and go, you know what, this isn't going to work. But majority of the time we'll bring it back in a different way because it's a good mechanic.
Yeah, we can normally tell early enough if it's going to be really bad. There was lots in Learning Curve 2 because I knew there needs to be 8 different sections that would all kind of hark back to Learning Curve 1, but just explore in a different direction. And there were things like reflection. With the perception one, we were looking at having like skulls on a head in the mirror, and you had to mirror the skulls on the head.
Where you stand, so you had to mirror an object.
Yes. But then that was really difficult to actually work the mechanics around with people moving into the mirror, because then there's a skull where you want to stand, and it was really difficult. It was also really difficult on the redstone side, because we were going to have it where if one player is mirroring another player, then
it works as well.
That works as well, but that would just require so much redstone. So there are ideas that normally we pinch them in the bud early enough if we know they're not going to work, and then hopefully, if they're not too dreadful, it just comes to doing a slight rework. And we have done a lot of reworks.
You mentioned about getting fresh playtesters every time so that you keep kind of getting that first impressions. Did you do that through just reaching out to the community, or was that all?
Mainly we did it through. Initially it was through the Minecraft forum. We reached out because we had a thread where we would post our updates and show the new areas, and we had some following on that. And so when we reached out and said, look, we're looking for playtesters, we had quite a few groups come forward. And so we've built up a bank now, I would have thought, of different playtesters, from our friends to people we've met through Minecraft forum, through people who are on our Facebook group. And it's really useful because now when we come to testing Learning Curve, we have all those testers that did Templars and all those testers that did everything else, and it makes it a lot easier. But it was the Minecraft forum was the big one for us.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really nice community, and they're all willing to help. They all want to get involved. They're all happy to give feedback. So
I guess it's because it's a sandbox game. Everyone knows how it works and how to build things, so everyone can have an input.
Yeah.
Was that when you were playtesting? Were you in the game with them, like talking over Skype, or what kind of communication did you use?
Well, we had a format of we would listen to their Skype call, so we could understand. The key for us was to understand what was going through their head, so we could understand, even if they're not doing anything, they're stood still, how they're thinking, and how we could manipulate that by the objects they see. And then we would be in spectator mode, or initially before that existed, we'd just be invisible on the map, so that we could see where they were and what they were saying while they were doing that. So we would host a server so that we don't actually give out the file. So we kept our file ourselves. Yeah, that's the other thing.
You don't want to be releasing builds to the general public, because they just get lost on the internet.
They're distributed.
And then you've got poor versions which are being distributed. It's being... Obviously, you've got like a marketing plan with our newest map, Prismatic. That's a one-player one, and we could just send that out to people, but we wouldn't do that because then it would be out before our release date, and it just gets complicated. So we always do it through our server, and so they're in the Skype call, the 3 of them, because we pretty much need Skype to play our games. To be able to communicate with each other. Yeah. And then we normally use the Google Hangout. We mute ourselves, listen to their call, and then we talk to each other on the Google Hangout.
Okay.
So we are talking between each other, we can hear them, they can hear each other, but they can't hear us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how we do it.
Took a lot of practice to get there.
Yeah.
So with these puzzles, just kind of a finishing question on the puzzle aspect of it. So when you're designing puzzles, did you originally, obviously, you came into this just with a bit of kind of design experience. Did you find that as you used Minecraft, your design became more adapted to the limits or constraints of Minecraft, or did you just design puzzles in general and then try and fit them in around the constraints?
It can work both ways. Sometimes if I think a puzzle is cool, or if I think an idea is cool, like the reflection idea, I thought that was a cool idea and it was something that I wanted to implement. So we looked at what options we had within Minecraft to do something like that. and then you just work with what you've got, really. Like I said, if you come up with an idea and it doesn't quite fit Minecraft, then you just move to a different idea that will still fit the same theme, but is more feasible to the constraints of Minecraft.
Occasionally, on the other hand, we saw some mechanics from the game that we thought, okay, I've seen that mechanic, we can make an interesting puzzle around that mechanic. So it did work both ways for
definitely.
us.
That's how Prismatic came about. They added... They changed the way that glass panes look when they're placed on their own to a rod rather than a crosshair, which meant that when you put them in a beam for a beacon, you couldn't see anything affecting the colour of the beam.
It just changed colour.
It just changed colour, which we thought, wow, that looks really cool, we should make a map surrounding that. And then this is why we've made Prismatic, where basically you have a room and then you have 8 colours, and you have to colour the room using those different coloured panes in order to transform the way the room works. Sometimes there'll be a door that opens, or there'll be climbable vines, depending on which colour you've chosen.
I like that. I like the idea of messing with all these colours.
Exactly, yeah. But it works both ways, so you can take Minecraft's constraints and use them, or we can just apply our own ideas to Minecraft.
So obviously you guys are a team of kind of former graduates.
Mm-hmm.
James, you graduated a bit earlier. So obviously, when people are working, especially students, especially in teams, anyone like hobbyists or students themselves, keeping track of who's doing what, who's responsible for what, whether an idea is good enough, is really hard. Like, you need to, especially when you're dealing with different people's ideas, one person might be really enthusiastic about something, another person might not be, and it can cause a lot of tension, it can cause a lot of miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go about doing that, and were there any kind of issues that you came up with that you eventually solved?
Do you want to start on that one? Or?
You go ahead.
Well, we were lucky in which we first met because we were in the same halls together we started university, and then we lived together in the second year. And I can understand why, let's say, teams of League of Legends players all move in together, because living together meant that we almost kept the same schedules, so we'd eat at the same time, we'd do things at the same time, and because we were around each other all the time, being able to share these ideas made it really easy.
Yeah.
And when you went away to Germany, that's something that put most of the projects on hold for a while, because we couldn't communicate as much. And then as you came back, we had regular coffee meetings where we'd go to organise this. But we're lucky that it's a group of 2 and that we know each other really well. And we were friends before we started making games, because biggest thing we had a couple of obstacles when we were doing Templars, I think, but just being able to... We now have a rule that we're completely honest with each other. If we don't like something, we say it and we don't judge.
Yeah.
And that's been a big thing, I think.
No, definitely. Yeah, it's really important. Obviously, you're going to have disagreements. You're not all going to think that the same idea is good. You just have to talk about why. It's really about your reasoning. Like, you might... When you say, I don't like this because... Sometimes you don't say it that way. You say, we need to get rid of this, or we need to change this. And you don't really explain why or your reasoning right behind it. And then if you get right to the root of the problem, you can discuss that problem and then think about other changes for it. I don't know if that quite makes sense, but...
No, I understand.
If... I'm trying to think of a good example.
Disagreements we've had, or which ones to pick. No, for instance... when we started discussing our water temple puzzle for Templars of Hyrule, we knew that it wasn't working as it should do because it was taking too long, because you had to go in and out of the room and you couldn't see what to do. And I had offhandedly said, we probably just need to remove it and get rid of it and change something. But as we then discussed it, and we realised it was an integral puzzle, it was what brought back the feelings of playing the original game. So we morphed it and we found out what the root of the problem was, that you couldn't see what was going on. And because we assessed that, we then changed the room so that when you change the water level, you can see it directly. And because we assessed what that original problem was and talked about it, we were able to find a different change that made it make sense for both of us.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just about being really clear, being honest, like you said. If you don't like something, you have to say, and then try and figure out a compromise, because you are a team of people at the end of the day, and you need all of the members to make it happen. So it's about making sure that everybody's happy and just being open-minded. I always try to say to myself, what if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Because when you're arguing, you're like, I'm so right. But if you think, what if I'm wrong, then I think it puts you in a different mindset.
Yeah. Or why do I think I'm right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
sometimes there's you start to think about like, oh, why do I think this? And then you get down to the root of why you think this, and you realise that it's actually maybe it's not as big of a problem as you thought it would be.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And don't bring your work home with you. I find that sometimes if I'm wound up and I come on and I'm wound up, it just doesn't go anywhere. You've got to have a separate world where different set of emotions apply, definitely.
Yeah. And you've got to be hardworking as well, that's the other thing. I think we both work really hard on getting the work done. Even after you've come home from work, you'll sit and we'll do like redstoning or whatever for a few hours.
You've got to be committed. You've got to be full in for it, definitely.
Yeah. And if it's what you enjoy, it's what you want to do. That's the other thing that I find. And it is really rewarding. It takes a long time to finish a project, but like we've had these YouTube Let's Plays. We love watching them. Like Captain Sparkle's played through Learning Curve 1 and then he went straight onto Learning Curve 2. And it was great just to be able to see that. And then you see all of these comments in the comment section as well.
I love this map. This map's great, and we really feel nice about that.
Yeah.
And I think because we were friends beforehand, I always feel a bit guilty if I'm not putting in as much as I should do, because I think, well, I'm letting Dan down. And
it's the same way around.
I think
and
I need
Jamie
to put a
feels
bit
it as
more in.
well. Like, if any of us feel like we're not pulling our weight, then you do have that guilt, so it makes you want to work as well.
Is there anyone in particular who keeps track of what each person is doing?
It's mostly me. I've got the most time to do it as well at the moment, so that's handy. But it's just, I'll keep track of when release dates are, what projects need to be worked on for when. I'm trying to sort out the calendar for like a Christmas release is something that we're working on at the moment. And it's just, we have a Trello, which, if anyone's not used before, is a really good organisational device. So we've got our own columns. So we've got Jamie's column, and we've got my column, and we've got James's column. And James's column is normally clear. He's very organised. But it's just, if something needs to be done, and I think, I need to do that, I'll just whack it on the Trello. And then same for, if there's general things, like we're working on prismatic bug fixes at the moment, we have a big list of prismatic. And that says all of the things that need to be left, that are left to be done. So
it means you don't forget anything, which is a big one. If you've got multiple projects on at the same time, even if you're out and about, or if you're home and no one else is, and you think, oh, James needs to do that, Dan needs to do that, you can stick it on the Trello and we'll come back to it.
That's right, yeah. It's like the stained clay, the yellow stained clay. Jamie was like, that's not yellow enough, so I was like, I'll put it on the Trello. And everyone can use it and contribute to it as well. So it's
another
nice
central device, just like Minecraft provides us a visual.
So when coming up with the ideas for these kind of Trello boards, or like to-do bullet points, as you were, would you come up with these as you were working, or would you have like meetings where you'd say, okay, we're thinking about doing this next, what are the steps each person might need to think about doing, kind of thing?
You don't really have time for meetings. Where you're sort of,
I mean, I'm talking to you all the time, and
you talk to Jamie all the time, so you're sort of the middle point of call.
That's right. So because I'm normally on the starting point of all the ideas, and then obviously it needs to go to different people to develop. So I'll speak to James about something. I'll say, mostly, is this possible? And do you think it's good? What are your ideas for it? What would you like? And I'll speak to Jamie about it. And he'll say whether or not he thinks it'll be fun, if it'll be enjoyable, how will it be good for YouTubers to do, how will they publish it, things like that. So I'll speak to both of you and then come back with the feedback, and then we just keep discussing between ourselves. There isn't a formal meeting, because there's three of us. I mean,
it's not difficult.
You've got 2/3 of us here right now, so
I mean, if you are on the server, it's kind of like you're in a meeting all the time.
And that's the thing.
On the Skype, we're almost constantly on Skype to each other. I don't think.
So we're always seeing each other, always working with each other. So it's easy to just mention, oh, I've had this idea, or I think we should do this next.
It's not like an office where you might have to take an elevator.
No, I think with more people, and if we were working more separate, then it would possibly be necessary, but with just the three of us, not really needed.
I think a lot happens because we do a lot of other things together as well. Like we'll play games together, or we'll just chat, or we'll go out together. And because even if we're not on the Minecraft, you might have an idea, and you can very quickly bounce it back and forth because we're next to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously you have like a lot of ideas that go onto paper, or mad scrawlings, I think as James would say. Do you find that quite hard to kind of transfer your vision, if you like, to the rest of the team, or is it all through these discussions?
I'm getting better at it, I think you'll say.
Definitely, much better.
In the beginning, it was very unclear, and it could be quite frustrating for both of us because I would not have communicated something clearly enough, and then James will have made it, and then I come and see him 2 hours later, and I'm like, well, what's this? Why does
this do this?
Yeah, and then I'll be like, this isn't quite what I had in mind.
You become much more articulate from the, I want this thingy to do the thing with the thing,
Yeah.
and I have to try and translate that. But he's become a lot more articulate with his plans, and especially they're a lot clearer to read than they were initially.
That's right. It was originally just scrolls on paper, but now we've got Google Docs, and I tried to come up with a proper design document with a good brief, just to make it clear from the beginning what exactly is going on. That normally gets rid of most of the confusions. And then some more specifics. I try to think about how the redstone will work a bit, because now that I've got a bit of knowledge about it, I can normally think, I think this is possible, but I might need to check. And James often has much better ways of doing it. But if I know it, I think it's at least possible, then that it's just something else to think about. So
it's always fun with the redstone. You'd come up and go, right, I need a system that does this, go and sleep on it. And I will sleep, and quite often I will dream of redstone and wake up in the morning and go, I know how to do this now.
Yeah.
But it's bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, definitely. But it can, obviously with code you have to be so specific, and with games there's just so many things, there's so many like outliers, because people can do whatever they want. You have to think, but what if they just leave the room and come back 10 minutes later and the items despawned? There's all these little things that you have to think about.
What if they're idiots?
Idiot proofing.
We had to idiot proof a lot of maps.
Yeah.
What if they decide to throw their only key into lava?
Yeah.
You know, how do you go around that?
It happens a lot, unfortunately. But there's only so far you can proof it. But you do have to think outside the box a lot of the time, which is why the playtesting can be helpful as well.
Especially if we pick idiots to playtest it.
Did you ever find yourself, when you were creating these design documents, having trouble with the English language, where you'd say something and then maybe James would interpret it a different way, or did you find it easy enough to be kind of concise enough to describe exactly what was going on when you were going through a puzzle?
You used a lot of images, didn't you, to support it?
Obviously it's Minecraft, you just build it, so there would be lots of images and diagrams as well. I don't need to say this pressure plate opens this door, I'll just draw a diagram and then they'll just be connected. Kind of like the way Portal does it, just for the diagrams, and then that made it easier, more clear to see how things work together. I'm trying to think of one that we've got the wrong end of the stick on.
It was the earlier projects, definitely, that I just got the complete wrong end of the stick, and I'd built something and spent a couple of hours on it, and he'd go, this is completely not what I wanted.
Yeah.
It was difficult, but again, I don't think, I ask now a lot of the time, are you sure you want this to do this?
Yeah, and obviously because we're working on the same project, you can normally see each other and just sort of intervene before it gets too late. But yeah, it's just a matter of practice, being clear and understanding each other's roles as well.
Is there any kind of tools that helped you kind of draw these ideas out, or was it all like pen and paper?
It's just pen and paper, really, yeah. Like I said, I used the Google Documents just so that we could all read an up-to-date file. But yeah, I'd scan them in, wouldn't I?
Yeah,
I'd just scan
everything, because you do it on the train, you do it on the bus, you do it everywhere.
Yeah, I would just do it out and about, because that's how I find I'm most focused. But like my brother does lots of he does all the design work, all of the art assets, so he's done the prismatic logo. So if I need something to be drawn up a little more precisely, he uses stencil.
He did these logos, didn't he?
Yeah, he made our logos.
Yeah, very nice.
I think he uses stencil as his tool of choice.
We use Audacity for our recordings, because it's a really good piece of software.
Yeah, Audacity.
We've used a couple of different... We went for Paint originally for some of the texture stuff, but we had to evolve to GIMP for that, or Paint.net as a more advanced way of manipulating files, but...
Yeah, only for special ones. I mean, obviously it's Minecraft, so you don't
everything's pixelated, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's most of the tools that we use.
So obviously you've just kind of pushed out No Learning Curve 2 a couple of months ago.
That's right.
So when it comes to just releasing and kind of getting these things finalized, what kind of process do you go through? Like through testing, kind of dealing with any creative blocks, or like tiredness you might have from spending so many hours trying to fix all these player difficulties, and to the release, and obviously like managing your community after release?
Well,
Go with Prismatic. Say what we've done.
yeah, well, with Prismatic, that was it's only a month of development really, because we're trying to see if smaller one-player maps are a bit more popular, because it can be often difficult for people to find 3 players,
Especially for 16 hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we put a release date on it quite early. It's October 23rd, and I said at the start of October it'll be ready by October 23rd. James doesn't like putting release dates on things, because for Templars I said it'd be ready in May. I said it'd be ready in June, said it'd be ready in July. It was ready in...
I just feel like we're being a bit like Valve with Portal 3, you know,
Soon
coming
TM.
to you. Exactly,
Yeah.
that's the one.
It was released in October in the end, but yeah, so it can be difficult, especially saying it will definitely be ready then. You can't say that. You can say we're trying to get it to this point for this time. With Prismatic, because it was a small map, we'd already developed, I think, 2/3 of it. I'd designed it all, and most of the redstone was in. It was just a matter of repeating it and building a couple of rooms. So I was confident they would get it ready. It's in a ready state mostly now. Just needs a little bit of play testing, which is what we're hoping to do from Friday till next Friday. And then it's the big release, and we've been trying to release some trailers to sort of build up some hype. We've been putting screenshots on the Twitter, on the Facebook, just so...
Done some sound bites as well, not so trailers that are just some of the sounds from the game rather than gameplay. That was our first teaser, and then we brought in just a picture of one transformation of a room, and then we're bringing out a trailer this weekend.
Yeah, and that's got several transformations with one of the songs from the game, and that will be our final trailer, which we'll be using for the rest of the game as well, not just as like a teaser. So
Between YouTube, Twitter, Facebook,
yeah,
just at Minecraft Forum, anywhere we can get out a bit of publicity, and it's built some hype, and we've got a little bit of hype, which we're looking forward to, hoping that will help boost it up to start with.
And we also planned the release date to be at the start of the October half term.
Because a lot of our audience are either they're mostly between the age of 12 and 25, 26.
Yeah,
it's our audience range. So the ones that are at school, half term is a big time for them to start playing, getting bored and playing games.
If we had more foresight, we would have done a Halloween map, but we've at least got it planned for that holiday week. So yeah,
great. So obviously, you've been talking about Prismatic a lot. Would you like to give like a description of what the map's going to be about? And obviously, you've mentioned when it's coming out, and really where you're planning to go with kind of the future of Mentorbot gaming.
Do you want to talk about the maps?
Yeah, Prismatic then is a single-player map. It's our only single-player map we've done so far, and the premise of it is that you are trying to collect all the different colours of the rainbow. And when you place a colour of the rainbow in the middle of the room will change. So you might get, for blue, some water might appear that will allow you to swim to a new ledge. Green, vines might appear, allowing you to climb up. Different doors may open. So it's all about trying to figure out which glass to use where to find all the colours. So it's a really novel concept from my eyes. So I'm really impressed with that. But it looks really good. It's very Switch. It's only about an hour long.
That's
so
right,
it's shorter than our games. But that's our next map, and then we've always got a couple of things in the pipeline. And of course, as soon as Learning Curve 2 came out, there were murmurings in the community about when Learning Curve 3 would be coming out. But nothing in the pipework yet for that.
More, give me more.
Yeah, exactly. But we're getting there. We've got a couple of ideas. One that we're hoping to release for Christmas, as a Christmas-themed map. And then we've got our... Is it 4th birthday coming up next year that we might do something for as Mentorbot Gaming's 4th birthday? But
yeah, otherwise it's things about making it more sustainable. Like, we love doing this, but because we're doing it through Minecraft, we don't own any of the assets. We don't own our maps, so we can't sell them, which means that it can be often difficult to make the money to support making them, because obviously we put a lot of time into them. So we're looking at, we've set up a Patreon, we've set up the better donations page on the website. We're looking at hopefully getting some merchandise on the website as well if people would be interested in that. But you just got to put it out there and see.
Because we need some new equipment. That was our initial thing. We thought
right.
we want to get a good microphone with a pop filter, so when we do our voice recordings, that they're better quality and some better equipment to running a server. And
That's right. We'd like to be able to run a server, but if it's not profitable, then
or at least break it. The main thing is just being able to support itself.
So, yeah, those are things that we're working on at the moment, making it a bit more sustainable and just keep doing what we're doing.
And
putting out
attending
high-quality maps.
events here, there and everywhere. Dan went to EGX and met Yogscast a couple of weeks ago. And then in a week tomorrow, I'm off to Comic-Con in London as a Member to Block Gaming representative there to do just a bit of showing our face, getting known, and things like that. So
That's right, and just sort of connecting with the local indie community as well.
Would you ever host your own stall at these events? Like Game City, I know does kind of open stalls.
Yeah,
we'd be tempted to, but we don't think we're that popular yet. We don't think we've got anywhere near as much as, well, the future might bring some great. I mean, I've been thrilled with how well we've done so far.
Yeah, I think it's a strange relationship between the creator of a game and the community, because sometimes you don't really feel it, especially with these YouTube videos. The people are connecting with the personalities.
Yeah.
So it's not that they don't like it; they don't really think about us when they're playing it. If that makes sense.
It's a map you download.
Exactly. You don't really think, oh, well, who made this? We're trying to work on that, trying to
build our image almost.
Exactly, because at the minute we're just maybe Later X and Dusk Reaper, so it doesn't really say much to people. So if we went to an event and we set up a booth, they might not recognise us. So that's the other thing. But yeah, I mean, we'd definitely love to. We just have to get a bigger following first, I think.
You did mention earlier that these maps take a lot of time. Do you have any kind of estimates on how long these maps took you?
Templars.
Templars was in the region of probably between us close to 1,000 hours.
Yeah,
maybe more than that.
Very long. 16 hours of 3-player gameplay is.
It probably took us more than that.
It's like
actually.
50 hours of gameplay, so it's very big.
It's a
very
standalone
long.
game. Effectively,
Yeah.
it's long enough. It's got more storyline than quite a few of the games you buy nowadays.
Yeah.
But
So,
it took us a long time.
Yeah.
It took us over 2 years on and off, but I would have said over more than probably 1,000 hours between us.
yeah, I would agree. Well, as we've gotten a bit further along, we've got faster at making them. Learning Curve 2 was essentially the same. It was a 3-player cooperative game with 9 sections.
It's probably about 6 hours play, maybe longer than that.
Yeah, it's about 6 hours. And that's...
Probably only took us, between us, about 100 hours.
Yeah, I started making that in April, I think. I was doing the designs for it in April, and then we started building it around June, and then released it in August.
So a couple of 100 hours maybe between us. So it wasn't anywhere near as long as Templars,
No,
but we have got faster.
We're getting faster, and we're just getting faster, more efficient. We know what's possible, we know what's not, things like that.
So how much of this, the amount of time you spend on it, is on just testing rather than design and creation?
I mean, obviously with Templars it was huge, so we spent many, many hours doing those playthroughs.
Probably between 5 and 10% of the time is playthrough.
Yeah.
And between about 20 to 25% time is design, and then the rest is building and things like that.
Yeah. So that was about right. So you just test it till it's done, really.
There's always a new bug, and you get slightly pickier every time you see it, so it gets better, and you think, actually, now that it's better, I think I want to change this tiny bit up here, or I can see something in the distance that I don't want to be able to see. So you get pickier and pickier with a fine-tooth comb until it's... I mean, we've not seen a map yet that's flawless, have we?
No.
But
Don't know if they exist.
perfectionist in us.
Yeah, but it's just... You get better at finding where the bugs will be before they even appear. And... yeah, so it gets faster each time, but it's just if it's bad when you playtest it, you know you've got to do it again, and then it might still be bad the second time. Like I was saying with Rhythm, people had no idea what was going on. We had to change that 3 times, I think.
And then rebuilt the entire... We left it in the map as an Easter egg for people to find.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we had to rebuild it completely and change how everything worked.
And that took a few playtests to realise, right, this really isn't working. I'm going to go back to the drawing board, completely rework how they figure out this puzzle.
It's good now. It's one of my favourite puzzles from Learning Curve 2.
Oh, chemistry. Yeah.
So you mentioned a trailer coming up for Prismatic.
Yes.
Do you know when that's going to be and where we can find it?
Tomorrow. Be on the YouTube channel, or you can find it on the Prismatic download page. We've released two teasers already. If you go to mentalblockgaming.com, you can find the download to Prismatic, and we'll have the trailer on there, and that'll be ready for you tomorrow. So you can have a look at that.
So do you guys have like a Twitter or anywhere else people can follow you?
We're at Mental Block Game on Twitter. We are mentalblockgaming.com as our website. We're Mental Block Gaming on Facebook. And we're Mental Block Gaming on YouTube. So you can just Google Mental Block Gaming, or even There Is No Learning Curve, and we'll come up as one of the top
Find
links.
lots of links,
And there's mentalblockgaming@gmail.com if people want to email us on.
And is there anything else you'd like to add just for people thinking about making Minecraft maps or getting into kind of the design of different levels?
We always need more Minecraft maps. As YouTubers are always saying, good Minecraft maps are hard to come by. Get into it. It's an easy way to get started. And even if you only make a few and then decide to go on to Game Maker or whatever you're using as your platform, it's a really nice way to get some ideas on paper and see if this sort of designing and altering is for you or not.
Definitely. And it's a really nice community. I feel like if we'd started at just making small independent games, we might not have gotten such a following, because it's just harder to get out there. Whereas if people are looking for Minecraft maps, there is a demand for them. So, and the community is nice. There's always good feedback. So it's a nice place to start, I think.
Right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.